When the automatic doors of the old Walmart wheezed open at 3:17 a.m. for the first time in 14 years, even though the power had been cut since 2011, the motion sensor had no right to work. Yet the cracked glass parted with a wet sucking sound, and a wave of warm, fruit-sweet rot rolled out so thick it felt like walking into a mouth. Jack still stepped across the threshold because $400 from his streaming donors and the promise of 1 million views were louder than the animal voice in his gut screaming to run. Phone already live, chat exploding with skull emojis, and egging him on to find the garden center that local kids swore still grew things that could scream your name. His LED flashlight carved a trembling white tunnel through the pitch black, catching shopping carts fused together by rust and black syrupy residue, price tags from 2010 still clinging to handles like dead skin, and every breath he took tasted like someone had left a crate of peaches to liquefy in a hot car trunk for a decade. The floor was carpeted in fallen ceiling tiles, swollen with water, and something that moved when he stepped on it. Pale mushrooms the size of dinner plates, bursting open to release clouds of spores that glowed faintly green and stuck to his lips when he swore under his breath. The temperature climbed with every aisle he passed, 10 degrees, 20, 30, until sweat soaked his hoodie and the air turned to soup, thick and humid and alive, carrying the low buzzing of insects that shouldn't exist in December in Ohio. Far ahead, past the collapsed pharmacy counter, where pill bottles had melted into rainbow stalactites, the garden center doors stood open like a wound, leaking that same sick green light that made his camera feed glitch into static every few seconds. Chat was going feral. Someone donated $50 just to dare him to touch whatever was growing in there. And Jax, 21 and immortal the way only idiots on the internet can be, walked straight into the humid maw. The floor changed the instant he crossed the threshold. The cracked tile became rich, dark soil that sucked at his sneakers with wet kissing noises, and the ceiling skylights were completely overgrown with a canopy of leaves so thick it looked like midnight at noon. Rows of pots the size of bathtubs lined the walls, each cradling a single plant that had once been sold as a $4 hibiscus or bird of paradise, but had spent 14 years feeding on something far richer than Miracle-Gro. The stalks were human torsos stripped of skin, rib cages split open and blooming with glossy black leaves veined in red, arms replaced by thick vines that ended in glistening mouths ringed with baby teeth still wearing flecks of orthodontic wax. The mouths were chewing slowly, rhythmically, on things that squelched. Jax's flashlight beam landed on the nearest one, and the plant turned its blind head toward him, a wet clicking sound coming from the soil as pale roots lifted like blind worms tasting the air. Chat screamed run, but the donations kept climbing. Someone spamming the clown horn emote, and Jax laughed too loud, voice cracking, because pride is heavier than fear. He took one more step and the soil erupted. Roots thick as fingers punched up through his sneakers and into the meat of his feet, threading between metatarsals with surgical precision, blooming inside his calves with tiny white flowers that pushed out through his skin in wet pops of blood and sap. He dropped the phone, camera landing face up so the stream got a perfect worm's eye view of what happened next. The biggest plant, the one directly under the cracked skylight, opened its mouth impossibly wide and exhaled his full legal name in his mother's voice the night she overdosed on fentanyl, laced heroin in the bathroom of the very same Walmart. Jax felt his intestines unspool like garden hose while the roots climbed higher, wrapping his thighs, burrowing into his groin, delicate tendrils slipping under the waistband of his boxers to find warmer places to plant. The flowers inside him opened all at once, petals unfurling from his navel in a wet red rose that dripped sap the color of antifreeze. His scream turned into a gurgle as a vine forced its way down his throat and inflated, tasting his tonsils the way customers once tasted free samples. The chat counter hit 200,000 viewers right as his face collapsed inward, cheekbones folding like wet cardboard while new leaves pushed out of his eye sockets, bright and healthy, and veined with the same blue as Walmart's logo. The last donation message that scrolled across the dying screen read simply, "Thank you for shopping with us." And then the feed cut to black, while the garden center doors sealed themselves with a sound like lips smacking after a good meal, leaving only the soft rustle of new growth, drinking deeply from what had once been a kid chasing clout. They said the old Walmart still ran its overnight markdowns, even though the lights had been dead since 2011. And Marisol needed proof because every night for a month, the PA system had crackled to life inside her skull at exactly 2:58 a.m., announcing yellow tag specials in her missing father's voice, ending with the same loving whisper. Clearance on all expired lives. Aisle forever. See you soon, Mija? So tonight she slipped through the boarded-up employee entrance with a crowbar, a dying headlamp, and the kind of rage that only daughters who waited 12 years for a phone call can carry. The store hit her with cold so intense her teeth ached, breath fogging in front of her like ghosts trying to speak, and the aisles stretched wrong, longer than the building had any right to be. Fluorescent tubes flickering overhead, even though the power lines outside had been cut and sold for scrap years ago. She passed aisle 47, where the candy displays had melted into sticky black lakes that reflected faces that weren't hers. Then aisle 88, where the toy shelves were full of dolls whose eyes tracked her movement with wet clicking sounds. Then aisle 112, where her father stood waiting exactly as he looked. The morning he disappeared, same flannel shirt, same half smile, same gallon of milk in his hand, except the plastic jug was swollen and leaking thick red from the bottom. Marisol ran toward him screaming, "Dad, Dad!" But the floor turned into a reverse conveyor belt, and every desperate step dragged her backward while the milk jug became a human heart still beating in his gray hands, valves opening and closing like mouths trying to speak. More shoppers materialized between the shelves. Her best friend from 10th grade who overdosed in a motel bathtub, reaching for a box of off-brand tampons that bled when she touched them. The neighbor who hanged himself in 2014, pushing a cart full of his own tongue coiled like rope. Her mother before the cancer ate her face shopping for greeting cards that opened to reveal Polaroids of her own autopsy. The PA voice dropped an octave and spoke only to her, intimate as a lullaby. "Attention Walmart shopper, everything must go, including you." And the overhead lights began snapping on row by row, revealing aisles that climbed into three-digit numbers that hurt to read, each shelf stocked with products that remembered her childhood. The exact cereal her father bought the week he left. The pregnancy test she peed on at 16 that came back negative but still ruined her life. The birthday candles from the party nobody came to because her family was already falling apart. The floor tilted and the aisles narrowed into a single black throat of shelving, products leaping from the racks like startled birds. Jars of peanut butter unscrewing themselves to reveal cremation ashes, labeled family size. Cans of baby formula splitting open to spill teeth and amniotic fluid. Boxes of condoms full of tiny desiccated umbilical cords still tied in perfect hospital knots. Marisol swung the crowbar and shattered a shelf of picture frames that bled when the glass broke. But the shards reassembled in midair into mirrors showing her every moment she failed someone she loved. Her father walked forward slowly, milk heart dripping on the floor where it sizzled like acid, and pressed a yellow clearance sticker to her forehead that burned cold as dry ice. The sticker read 100% off, original price, one childhood, and her skin began peeling away in perfect price tag rectangles, each strip curling to reveal raw red muscle stamped with UPC codes. The dead shoppers closed in chanting rollback, rollback, rollback in perfect Walmart harmony while their faces slid off in wet sheets and splattered across her shoes. She tried to scream, but her tongue had turned into a receipt printed with every lie she ever told. And the paper kept unspooling until it filled her mouth and choked her silent. The last thing she felt was her father's cold hand, cupping her cheek the way he did when she was 5, right before the aisles folded in on themselves and swallowed her whole, adding her to the permanent inventory of things that never ring up paid.